the lady who ignited the 1980s with her iconic short denim shorts, million-dollar legs, and sexy physique. She was more than simply a TV character as Daisy Duke. She became a cultural icon and a name that was associated with boldness and sexuality. However, who could have imagined that the once enthralling lady would suffer such a terrible end? After two seemingly happy marriages, she ended up as a single mother who had to deal with an unfathomable loss: her husband's mysterious suicide, which left many unsolved questions and unsolved riddles. What really happened to Catherine Bach, from the height of her celebrity to her puzzling disappearance? Did the bright limelight force her into a turbulent life, or was it a double-edged sword? You won't want to miss this story. A journey filled with heartache, glory, and previously undiscovered mysteries. Now let's find it. Did you know that Daisy Duke, the seductive legend, came from modest beginnings? She worked as a seamstress at UCLA. Catherine Bach had a very different life before she became one of the most famous people of the 1980s. Just a sewing machine and a lot of grasslands, no Hollywood, no stage lights. Catherine Bachmann was raised on a South Dakota farm after being born in Cleveland, Ohio, on March 1, 1954. She learned to care for animals, ride horses, and appreciate the simplicity of nature during this wild and free-spirited time of her life. However, another passion, art and fashion, began to blossom among that peaceful country life. Catherine showed a remarkable aptitude for costume design at an early age. She decided to sew garments to make ends meet when she was an acting student at UCLA rather than working in offices or cafés as most students do. In addition to providing for her basic needs, each stitch fostered her own sense of style, which would eventually enable her to create her own outfit for Daisy Duke and make those tattered denim shorts a television sensation. Not everyone is aware that Catherine Bach had to work really hard to achieve her goals before entering the Hollywood industry. Was her skill enough to win her a job in Hollywood, though? What really brought Catherine to the position that permanently altered her life? Catherine Bach did not become famous overnight. She had to slog through supporting parts before her name was a household name on TV, moving cautiously down Hollywood's perilous road. She initially encountered the limelight with her debut performance in The Sound of Music, which marked the beginning of her theatrical career. However, Catherine's aspirations drove her to go beyond. She had her first big-screen break in 1974, co-starring with Clint Eastwood and Jeff Bridges in the suspenseful action movie Thunderbolt and Lightfoot. Nevertheless, Catherine Bach's name went mostly unknown, even though she appeared on film among A-list celebrities. She kept making appearances in B-movies, but none of them had the breakthrough potential to help her escape obscurity. However, life might alter suddenly at times. The best chance for Catherine Bach arrived in the most surprising manner. Her first husband, David Shaw, told her about the Dukes of Hazzard audition. Although it could have seemed to be a random fact, it was really a turn of events that would permanently change her life. The filmmakers first wanted a curvaceous, Southern-style beauty that looked like Dolly Parton. However, all of Catherine's preconceptions disappeared the minute she entered the audition room. She erased the initial casting vision with a single glance. She was picked right away, so there was no need to second-guess. The Dukes of Hazzard had undoubtedly discovered their enduring television star. Instead of being given preference, Catherine Bach was hired because of her unmistakable charm and individuality, which no one else could match. However, none could have predicted that this same role would turn into a double-edged sword, propelling her to fame while also entangling her in an unavoidable stereotype. When the first episode of The Dukes of Hazzard aired in 1979, nobody could have imagined that it would go on to become one of America's most popular television shows. The narrative of the Duke family's fight against corruption in Hazzard County became a pop-cultural sensation as the program soon captured the attention of millions of people every week. Beyond the exciting automobile chases and the renowned General Lee, however, viewers were captivated by Daisy Duke, a female figure who was tremendously powerful and seductively attractive. and that persona was immortalized by Catherine Bach. Daisy Duke rose to fame as a cultural figure. The classic moments that Catherine Bach brought to life on television were what made her image indelible. Her debut in the now iconic red bikini during the first season of The Dukes of Hazzard stands out as one of the most unforgettable. Daisy's sensuous and free-spirited beauty was accentuated by her bikini, which also produced one of the most recognizable pictures in American television history. Daisy Duke's persona became inextricably linked to the red bikini. The fact that the picture was used in the opening sequence of every season of the program made it much more noteworthy. Viewers were forever changed by Daisy Duke's cheeky glance and self-assured stride as she ran over the dusty rural roads in her eye-catching bikini at the start of each show. That scene cemented Catherine Bach as one of the finest beauty symbols on television and established Daisy Duke as a representation of power and sensuality. A promotional poster starring Catherine Bach became one of the best-selling posters in television history as a result of Daisy Duke's explosive rise in popularity. The producers arranged a promotional picture session with Catherine Bach dressed as the Dukes of Hazzard in order to take advantage of the character's enormous popularity. However, none could have predicted that a single photo from that session would spark an unheard-of frenzy. Catherine Bach rests against the Jeep Dixie in the now-famous picture, her arms folded over her chest, her eyes piercing and unmistakably seductive. She exudes effortless charm as her natural curls fall over her shoulders. Her attire was a masterwork of casual seduction. It was flirtatious, but never obscene. Her famously long legs were emphasized by the typical tattered denim shorts, while a knotted crop top showed off her toned stomach. Millions of admirers felt compelled to acquire this poster because it was the ideal fusion of Southern charm and Catherine Bach's brilliant confidence. The poster sold almost 5 million copies in a very short period of time, which is a record for a television actress. It was unprecedented for a single poster to garner such record-breaking sales in an age without the internet and with little media attention. It was everywhere, not just hanging in the bedrooms of millions of boys in America. The poster was so well known that it was displayed in department shops, newsstands, and car garages. Nancy Reagan, the First Lady at the time, even had a copy. That was evidence enough that Catherine Bach was more than just a TV personality. She was now a national beauty symbol. This poster's significance extended beyond its impressive sales numbers and loyal following. It was an expression of Catherine Bach's supreme power in her prime. Not only did people think of the program when they thought of Daisy Duke, but they also instantly thought of this picture, which is so ingrained in popular culture that it has become the epitome of sensuality on American television. In addition to solidifying Catherine Bach's reputation in the entertainment business, its success showed how a television character might have a remarkable impact outside of the screen, something that very few performers ever do. But the cost of this glittering stardom was high. The Dukes of Hazzard's enormous success and the poster's overwhelming popularity cemented Catherine Bach's identity as Daisy Duke for all time. She was permanently tied to the same success she had built, whether she liked it or not. One poster had the power to propel someone to the highest level of fame, but it could also throw a shadow so large that it was almost difficult to avoid. Catherine Bach was going to have to deal with that catastrophe. The Dukes of Hazzard was full of glitz as the Daisy Duke craze gradually subsided. But Catherine Bach's private life was quite different from Daisy Duke's glamorous reputation. She was shown on TV as a strong, self-reliant lady who was upbeat and willing to take on any task. However, no one could ever fully prepare for the emotional shocks and agonizing struggles that Catherine Bach faced in real life. Two marriages that seemed to be meant to be happy ended in tragedy and loneliness. Catherine Bach married David Shaw, a production manager and film producer with strong connections to the entertainment business, in 1976, while her career was just beginning to take off. In addition to being her spouse, he was instrumental in getting her to attend the Dukes of Hazzard audition. Their love was intense and full of great hopes at the moment, and Catherine's profession was rapidly advancing. They were seen as a future Hollywood pair, endowed with both stable employment and good looks. However, the gap between them widened as Catherine Bach's prominence skyrocketed. It wasn't always simple to become America's most popular sex symbol, particularly while married. A demanding production schedule, ongoing media attention, sponsorship agreements, and never-ending meetings with industry leaders absorbed Catherine more and more. David Shaw, however, found it difficult to cope with his wife taking center stage. They gradually drifted apart due to unspoken envy, the responsibilities of Catherine's work, and the pressures of celebrity. Their marriage ended peacefully, without arguments or controversies, in 1981. They separated quietly, in contrast to many Hollywood splits that were characterized by acrimonious allegations and court cases. Two individuals that were unable to locate one another in their own planets. The first silent sadness in Catherine's journey was caused by David Shaw's departure from her life at the height of her fame. When Catherine Bach met Peter Lopez, a well-known entertainment lawyer who had worked with industry icons like Michael Jackson, the Eagles, and Michael Bublé, it seemed that fortune had finally favored her after years of loneliness. In addition to being a lawyer, Peter was also a friend, mentor, and someone who might help Catherine find stability in her life. A potential new chapter began when they were married in 1990. After the turbulent years of celebrity, Catherine Bach had moved into a new stage of her life, one as a wife and mother, and was no longer the Daisy Duke of the 1980s. Together, they had two daughters, Sophia Isabella, 1996, and Laura Esmeralda, 1998. And they seemed to have it all, a contented life together, a loving family. Peter Lopez never stopped encouraging his wife and guiding her through the difficulties of the entertainment business. In order to help impoverished youngsters, they even founded a charity together. Everything suggested a perfect marriage, the refuge Catherine had long sought. Then disaster struck in a manner that no one could have predicted. Catherine Bach woke up on the morning of April 30th, 2010, completely unaware that her life would be drastically altered in a matter of hours. In the grounds of their house, which had once been a place of love and joy, Peter Lopez killed himself by taking one bullet to the head. Hollywood was rocked by the announcement. Why would a successful guy who had a steady job, a loving family, and no outward symptoms of melancholy decide to take his own life so abruptly? There were no indications of a struggle or foul play when the police got on the scene. Everything seemed to be obvious. Peter Lopez had committed suicide. It couldn't be that easy for Catherine Bach, however. Catherine spoke candidly about the tragic events of that fateful day in an interview with the Huffington Post. She said that the morning had begun like any other, with a family meal and kind comments. With no idea that it would be their final time seeing him alive, Lopez kissed his wife, dropped his girls off at school, and came home. Catherine heard a gunshot shortly after. However, she didn't realize what had occurred right away. Since she had previously been followed, she first even thought that someone could have broken in. However, the terrible truth eventually emerged. On a hilltop overlooking their land, Peter Lopez had taken his own life. Catherine, stunned and heartbroken, called 911 in a frenzy. Her agonized cries were recorded on the terrifying 911 recording. "They think he's dead! They think he's dead! Please come now!" Catherine wept as the dispatcher inquired as to whether he was still breathing. "No, he's not breathing! I need you here right now!" A family friend and the housekeeper had hurried up the hill to check in the meanwhile, only to return in terror with the terrible news. When Catherine heard their desperate screams, she was overcome with fear. "Oh my God, they think he's dead!" Catherine was unable to believe the police's insistence that it was an obvious instance of suicide. "Peter had not displayed any signs of despair," she said repeatedly. Only a few days before, he had been talking eagerly about his future plans, including organizing the family and even anticipating a party. Peter's closest friends attested to the fact that he had never shown any signs of despair. He had no money difficulties, no addiction issues, and everything in his life seemed to be going as usual. What really occurred then? Speculation started to spread. Catherine had a suspicion that Peter was in a crisis due to the demands of his job. He was one of the most influential entertainment attorneys in Hollywood, having worked on big contracts like the Eagles, Britney Spears, and Michael Jackson. In fact, he had been instrumental in planning Michael Jackson's This Is It tour, and Peter Lopez took it on as a personal weight when Michael's unexpected death rocked the globe. Was he just unable to handle the burden of that responsibility? Or was Peter Lopez's unexpected death the result of another mystery? Whatever the real reason, one thing was certain. He was no longer there. Inexplicably, leaving Catherine Bach and their two young kids with an incalculable hole in their hearts. Catherine Bach was grieved by her husband's death. The public's favorite lady, who was once robust and dazzling, was reduced to a ghost of her former self. She was emotionally and physically exhausted, but she shed a lot of weight. She almost vanished from the public eye, stayed out of the limelight, and avoided the media. Her professional life completely stalled. She was too weak now to go back to Hollywood. However, it wasn't the loss of popularity or the professional setback that hurt the most. Her biggest source of support was lost when she lost her life partner, the guy who had supported her for 20 years. She had to deal with loneliness again. However, there was no hope for a fresh start or another opportunity to find love this time. She also had to deal with the overwhelming burden of being a single mother, which included raising Laura and Sophia while still mourning. Losing their father when they were just 11 and 14 years old was an unfathomable blow for her two kids. Later, Catherine said that losing her spouse was not as devastating as seeing her kids deal with their suffering. She remembered my girls collapsing when I informed them their father had passed away. We all three did. However, I had to be strong for them. I couldn't afford to come apart. Once upon a time, Catherine Bach had it all. A successful profession, celebrity, and the ideal life with her husband and kids. But everything fell apart in a single day. Because of her girls, her family, and herself, she continued to go throughout. Some TV personalities have a brief moment of fame before gradually fading into oblivion. Others, however, go beyond the screen and become ingrained in society, producing a lasting impact that endures for many years. Among them is Daisy Duke, with her untamed beauty and daring style. She was brought to life by Catherine Bach, who was more than simply an actor. She was the one who created an icon. Even though The Dukes of Hazzard premiered more than 40 years ago, fans still hold the name Daisy Duke in high regard. However, this character's immortality endures not just in the recollections of people who grew up watching the program, but also in popular culture, music, fashion, and language. No longer only a moniker, Daisy Dukes has gained widespread recognition as a fashion word. The distinctive frayed denim shorts, which have been a favorite for decades and are still seen on city streets and runways, come to mind when people hear it. Not only a fictitious figure. Daisy Dukes are more than simply clothes. They are a representation of freedom, sensuality, and a wild but alluring beauty that dates back to the 1980s. Daisy Duke has never been forgotten in popular culture. Her name has been mentioned as the epitome of Southern flair in everything from television series and films to music. From Waylon Jennings's Dukes of Hazzard theme tune to the hip-hop duo 69 Boys' Daisy Dukes, several well-known musicians have honored Daisy Duke in their compositions. The spirit of Daisy Duke lives on, inspiring innumerable powerful and seductive female characters on film, despite the fact that the Dukes of Hazzard is no longer shown on mainstream television. It's amazing that no one has ever really taken Catherine Bach's position as Daisy Duke. When Jessica Simpson was cast in the 2005 Hollywood rendition of The Dukes of Hazzard, the picture was a financial triumph. However, the original actress who embodied the role will always be remembered by viewers. Daisy Duke, played by Catherine Bach, was more than simply a sex object. She was a symbol of self-assurance, audacity, and a unique charm that was impossible to duplicate. Despite the decline in Hollywood's prominence, Catherine Bach has never turned away from her followers. She often attends reunions of the Dukes of Hazzard, where she meets and signs autographs for individuals who continue to treasure Daisy Duke's memories. She continues to play a significant role in the lives of individuals who grew up watching the program, making her more than simply a historical figure. Catherine Bach always meets her admirers with a warm grin at events, telling them about the part that altered her life and listening to those who have always had a special place in their hearts for the Dukes of Hazzard. In addition to her career in acting, Catherine Bach has shown that she is a woman who is not scared to take on new challenges by entering the business sector. She introduced Catherine Bach signature jewelry in 2002, a luxury line that showcased her sophisticated taste and unique character. After leaving Hollywood, the brand was well appreciated and went on to become one of her most successful endeavors. Not content to stop there, she created Daisy Country, a store in 2015 that sells apparel, accessories, and souvenirs influenced by the Southern aesthetic, which is a key component of Daisy Duke's heritage. In addition to being a business, it was a means for Catherine to maintain the essence of her persona, transforming Daisy Duke's legacy into a material object that others could wear, carry, and incorporate into their own lives. In retrospect, it is evident that Catherine Bach left behind more than simply a function. She established a cultural legacy. In addition to being the role that made her famous, Daisy Duke became a model for strong female characters on TV, a fashion symbol in the eyes of television viewers, and a source of inspiration for millions of women worldwide. She became a part of American television history rather than a short-lived celebrity who faded away. A lady who, by being strong, resilient, and determined not to be forgotten, left her imprint in her own unique manner. And Daisy Duke will always be remembered, regardless of the years that go by. And the lady who started that tale, Catherine Bach, will always be remembered. Following her personal misfortunes, Catherine Bach lived a peaceful life for years before slowly making a comeback to the public eye to give her admirers a peek into her life today. Although she is no longer actively involved in the entertainment world, she nevertheless radiates elegance and confidence at the age of 70. Catherine Bach recently made one of her few appearances with colleagues in the profession when she went to the Hollywood Museum in Los Angeles on August 1, 2024, to celebrate the marriage of John Schneider and Alicia Alain. She had previously attended the 50th anniversary celebration of The Young and the Restless at Vibiana in Los Angeles on March 17, 2023, a unique event where she reconnected with well-known television personalities. Catherine Bach is still a popular figure even if she has stopped working on creative endeavors. She still has the charm and confidence that made her a television star, as seen by her most recent performances. But time has unavoidably affected her looks, and in recent years there have been conversations on her weight increase. She, however, is unaffected by such conjecture. She still conducts herself with grace, interacting with admirers and keeping cordial ties with her old co-workers. One may argue that the modern Catherine Bach spends more time with her family and engaging in personal interests rather than chasing fame. She is nevertheless very grateful for the legacy she has left behind, even if she no longer actively pursues jobs in the entertainment sector. Her few public appearances demonstrate her everlasting relationship with her fans and her enduring connections with the people who helped make American television history with her. Catherine Bach is a living example of the strong and modest persona of Daisy Duke, a figure who will always have a special place in the hearts of the people, despite the losses and adversities life has thrown at her. An American sex icon who had a lasting impression on popular culture, Catherine Bach was once known as the Queen of Television. In a terrible contradiction, however, Daisy Duke's shadow was too great for her to get away from. The brilliant spotlight gradually faded when the Dukes of Hazzard concluded, leaving a more subdued career and a life full of more struggles than any Hollywood screenplay could possibly depict. She has seen unfathomable loss, 2 marriages, one ending in tragedy, the other in silence. But she has also experienced the height of celebrity, enthralling a whole country. The mystique she built ultimately eclipsed her once glorious career. However, one thing hasn't changed. Her legacy lives on, unaffected by the passage of time. The name Catherine Bach will always be associated with a heyday of American television, and Daisy Dukes will always be in vogue. What does she have ahead of her? Will Catherine Bach eventually make a comeback to the big screen and carry on crafting her own narrative? Fans will never forget Daisy Duke's fearlessness, humor, and boldness, or the fact that she continues to go ahead on her own terms in spite of many setbacks. Remember to share your ideas in the comments section if you found Catherine Bach's narrative to be enjoyable. Please hit like, share, and subscribe to accompany us as we explore these iconic Hollywood figures. I'll see you in the next video.